Hello everyone, Lucky Tremendous here, and I'm back for another video of Lucky Talks Television. Today we're going to... Do you hear that? It's time to go back inside the dead. That's right, folks. It's time for us to return to Season 1 of The Walking Dead with Episode 5, Wildfire. I can't wait for this one, guys. If there's any indication from the rest of Season 1 if this one's going to be awesome or not, I can already tell you, Season 1, Episode 5 is going to be a really nice episode. I can't wait to tell it for you guys. Without further ado, my friends, let us begin Episode 5 of Season 1 of The Walking Dead, Wildfire. The episode begins with Rick trying to contact Morgan over the walkie-talkie, telling him about the current events that happened the night before, how he did manage to find his family, that they're safe, but walkers came into the woods and killed a bunch of their people, if you guys remember, including Andrea's sister Amy. Tells him to stay away from the city, that it belongs to the dead now. The survivors deal with the aftermath of the zombie attack, burying their dead and burning the bodies of the walkers. Andrea has stayed with the body of her sister all night, apologizing to her constantly for not being there. The group tries to get Amy away from Andrea, but after some fierce prodding and some really good banter from Andrea, especially after she points a gun at Rick's head, specifically telling her that she won't telling them that she wants to be left alone, that she knows how the safety works. They eventually start to leave her alone. Everyone questions on whether or not they should deal with Amy. Everyone said they should, especially Daryl, who tells her they should just shoot her from here. You can definitely tell he's a bit insensitive, kind of like his brother, but it's not as bad with Daryl, for some reason. Not really sure I can tell why. Eventually, the group decides to deal with other pressing matters, burying the other bodies, and all their loved ones that they had lost. Dale becomes the comforting word on Andrea's shoulder, trying to slowly help her with the mourning process. It's a very sad scene, I'm not gonna lie. After Dale tells her a little bit more about himself, she starts to cheer a little bit up. Eventually, though, Andrea's body starts to wake up. Andrea talks to her as if her sister is still alive, before shooting her sister in the head with her gun, saying that she loves her before pulling the trigger. I gotta say, this is a perfect example of something that the show does better than the books, actually. It handled the topic of Andrea killing her own sister, quote-unquote, much better than the books did, and I have to applaud Glenn Mazzara, the writer of this episode, for doing that. The very few things I will actually applaud him for. As they try to reassess their own situation, Jim reveals he was bitten during the attack. You know, the minor character who was a mechanic that helped Dale all the time. Daryl wants to kill him before he can turn, but Rick puts his revolver to Daryl's head, saying, "We don't kill the living." Daryl points out the hypocrisy of that because Rick's pointing a gun to his head. Fearing that the camp is no longer safe, with Jim bitten, the dead literally around every corner, Rick suggests that the group go to the CDC in Druid Hills, Florida. Not Florida, Georgia. I feel like I know this show. Where they may have a cure waiting for them. Shane does not believe it's safe and tries to convince them to go to the army base, Fort Benning, 100 miles in the opposite direction. Shane, behind Rick's back, tries to convince Lori to change his mind, but she refuses, obviously still pissed at Shane for lying to her. Shane, still resenting Rick's reappearance in the camp, disturbing not only his leadership, but his relationship with Lori and Carl, begins to lash out at Rick for basically every little thing. Rick's just trying to keep the group together, but Shane's just worried about what he's lost. It definitely goes to show you that Shane is definitely not taking the apocalypse very well. It's definitely worse than most people are. So much so, when Rick turns his back, Shane almost shoots him when he's not looking, but then backs down, only to be discovered by Dale, who also followed them into the woods. The camp packs up, and they eventually decide to go to the CDC, as Shane finally admits it's a good idea. Rick radios Morgan that Atlanta is not safe and tells them to go to the CDC where they might be, told them that he left a map on the red car that he and Glenn stole. As the group prepares to leave, packing everyone into multiple cars, Morales and his family opt not to go with them, but rather go to Alabama with the rest of their family. Rick gives them some weapons and supplies, and so does the other group after saying a few tearful goodbyes to his family. I gotta say, Morales is one of the very few minor characters that just disappears off panel and we never see him again. Well, I shouldn't say we never see him again, my friends. Like Merle and Morgan before him, Morales will show back up, but not for a long, 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 long time. The scene in which the group drives to the CDC is actually quite awesome to listen to. The music, composed, is so awesomely done. I'm not going to lie, it's actually a very awesome scene to do. En route, as they try to fix Dale's RV as the thing continues to break down, it's actually a running gag for the beginning of the show, Jim starts to feel as if he's about to turn and asks Rick, begs him, to be left behind on the side of the road. Rick tries to convince him otherwise, but there's no convincing Jim of anything. And yet another glorious example of how the TV show sometimes does things better than the books did, the scene in which the group leaves Jim for dead is actually much better done in the show, in my opinion. The tearful goodbyes alongside the very sorrowing music as everyone tries to get him to come back with them. It's just so awesome. It's definitely one of my favorite one of the favorite moments in this episode, among other things, which I'll get to when we're done with this video. The group leaves him under a tree by the road and continues on as Jim slowly dies, and becomes the second minor character of the show to die. You know, as the show eventually goes on, minor characters start dying left and right. You get used to it, but for that first season, those first few little names under all the big names, when they start to go, it does start to weigh on your soul a little bit, not gonna lie. But anyway, once a Jim is good and dead, at the CDC, we actually get a video recording from a lone scientist who's still working there, Dr. Edwin Jenner. He's sampling tissue that is part of the wildfire epidemic, which is basically what they're calling the impending virus that destroyed the world. It's saying that it spreads like wildfire. It's lasted over the last 190 days, so basically it's been more than 6 months since the end of the world. It's actually quite crazy, not gonna lie. During one of the tests, his biohazard protection suit is damaged when he spills chemicals on his test tubes and his little petri dishes. He quickly takes emergency precautions, which end up destroying the remaining samples that he had to study. With no further means to continue on, and basically seeing how there's nothing left to live for, he contemplates suicide the next day, but not before getting shit-faced drunk. As he's getting drunk, though, he sees Rick's group appear outside the sealed building, begging for them to go away as not wanting to disturb them, or, basically having not them disturb what he's going through. Basically, he decides at first not to let them in. Rick sees one of the security cameras move as everybody, fearful for what happened to them, as they have no food and water, or gas for that matter. Rick sees the camera moving to look at them and yells for whoever's inside to let them in, banging on the door and acting like a madman, yelling, "You're killing us!" before finally Jenner gives up and opens the exterior doors, allowing Rick's group to enter into safety, as a blinding white light opens inside, allowing the light to pass over the viewers as the episode ends. Wildfire is a good episode. Not really good, mind you, not as good as Guts or Vatos, but it's a good episode, on par with Daryl and Carol's first introduction and Tell It to the Frogs. The main thing about Season 1 is, at its least, it's good at its least. That's amazing to me. This entire season did not have one average episode so far. I haven't talked about the finale yet. Probably should hold off until I do, but I'll say it just now. Wildfire definitely is good. In maybe one of the weaker points of Season 1, but like I said, even the weakest points of Season 1 were good. Just good. There's a lot of great moments in this episode, primarily those that take the moments from the books and build off of them. The scene where Andrea shoots Amy, where they leave Jim on the side of the road, except when we arrive at the CDC. I'll talk more in episode 6 of Lucky Talks Television why I had my concerns with that, and the season finale, the things people complained about it in general, but I'll get there when I get there. Something I should bring up, though, the character development here is almost at peak perfection for the rest of the show. We see exactly where everyone is. Lori really does not do a great job of trying to make Rick feel better about his kind of not good decisions. But everybody plays their part. Dale is the comforting moral compass who's always there to listen to your problems. Andrea just lost her sister, so now she's going to be dealing with that. Shane is being kind of a prick, not going to lie, and he's kind of losing it a little bit because of all the crap that's happening. Glenn is feeling very sad that all his friends are dying left and right, but he still manages to stay strong. Daryl, well, he's just Daryl. We don't really know that much yet, but if there's one character I should definitely tell you to look out for if you're a new viewer of The Walking Dead, Carol. She has one standout moment in this episode that really set her apart from her book counterpart. As we all saw Carol for the last 2 or 3 episodes, she was a meek, mild housewife who was at the mercy of a rabid dog husband. Well, if you guys remember, I didn't bring it up too much because I didn't really feel like I should, but mind you, her husband died at the end of episode 4 after he was killed by the walkers that attacked the camp. And when they finally found his corpse, Carol personally volunteered to put him down before he turned. She didn't just put him down, she bashed his head into juice. She took out all the years of abuse that Mad Dog put on her, all in just 5 or 6 swings to the head with a pickaxe. It was actually kind of awesome to watch, and kind of scary too. It was the very first step of what would be Carol's many years development as the series would go on, something I'll call back to at a later date. I would definitely say if you're a new fan of The Walking Dead, you'll definitely find Wildfire a very good episode to watch, and definitely is a great lead-in to the season 1 finale. Well, my friends, I hope that you enjoyed my summary slash recap slash look into slash review of episode 5 of season 1 of The Walking Dead, Wildfire. At last, next time we will get into the season 1 finale and all the weird craziness that follows as season 1, one of the best seasons of the show, comes to an end. As always, my friends, I'm Lucky Tremendous, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye-bye!